David Alston, Radian 6, VP of Marketing and Community.
Great. If people could walk away from the panel you were just on with one thing, what would you like that to be?
I think when it comes to social media and measuring, I think it comes down to the fact that there is no one specific measurement that you can kind of gravitate to. I think what I'd like people to think about is, when measuring, think about what the business objective is. So if the business objective is we want excellent customer service, or we want that kind of customer service side, then maybe look at some of the customer service metrics you're already looking at in the other channels that you're measuring, like email, phone, or whatever coming into a store. So what are those metrics, and adapt those and basically extend those out to social media. And if it comes down to this, sales metrics or lead metrics, then kind of move those again. Look to adapt those, or campaign metrics and that kind of thing. I don't think you're ever going to see a single metric for social media, because I don't think it'd be like coming up with a metric for how do you measure the phone. It's a channel. You can measure in a million different ways. It depends on what you're using it for. So I'd hope that people know that there's so many things you can measure in social media based on the business goals that you want.
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing about it, because there's so many artifacts, and because it's all digital, it's right there, and you can see it all. Right? It's not hidden, or it's not like a print ad or a TV. You don't know whether the person's watching or who's watching. You have to kind of create metrics and create ways to measure it. It's all there, so you can measure it. So, but it just comes down to, what's your business goal, and then how do you want to then pull from all these different things that you can measure to prove it in.
Cool. Now, one of the things that people have been talking about specifically at this event, obviously, since it's in metrics, is web metrics. When the panel was talking about social media metrics, they were talking a lot more about influencers and how to identify influencers, how to measure their performance or their influence, or the number of times they're talking about certain things and what they're talking about. Whereas the rest of the conference is talking more about how companies can measure themselves. Do you have any insights about how those two styles of measurement are going to be coming together, and how that's going to happen?
So, good point. So, I guess you could look at web analytics as, analytics measurement around that thing called the website. I mean, yes, I know it can be more than that, but let's say it's basically what's happening on my property. How, what are all the different ways that I can look at things that I manage on my own property?
Right.
And it's stuff coming into it. It's, then it moves to a sale, or it moves, whatever, right? Social media analytics, if you want to call it that, is everything outside my property. It's everyone else's property. It's my brand being talked about on other people's property, right?
Right.
And how do I measure that? And I think the thing comes down to, then how do I connect the two of them together?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So there's ways to do that. I mean, there's ways, in fact, if I'm leaving a comment on a blog, I could, instead of putting, when it asks for your domain, my name, my domain, my email address, whatever. Maybe what I do is I actually put in a specific, landing page.
Right.
And now I can, for that. And maybe every day I have a new landing page, and I somehow work with my website to generate a new landing page that can tie back to that specific.
So when you're having the conversations, you're seeding those landing pages to allow you to measure it.
To allow the measure, to connect that conversation with this visit, right? That's one way to do it. When someone's tweeting about, or I answer a tweet on Twitter,
right?
And again, I give a link to, let's say the person wants to know more about the company, and I don't want to shill them and give them here's buy my product, but I want to point them to, let's say, other discussions that people had on Twitter that are, let's say, complimentary. But so a person says, I love whatever brand X. Well, you could point them to, in our case, right now what we do is we point them to the favorites in Twitter for our corporate Twitter account.
Right.
And there's a whole list of every time someone says something nice, we thank them and we favorite it, right? The problem with that, of course, the way it's set up right now, and again, this is a learning process, is that, of course, there's people going to that, but I'm not tracking it, right? And then if a person sees that and goes, oh, I definitely want to find out more about Radian 6, they may click on that and it jumps in, but I didn't really track that, right?
Yeah.
So what would be better is I take those same favorites and I can maybe create a page on my website and I RSS feed them into something, whatever, so they're always updated, but they're there, and then I create a tiny URL that I can then put in that, tweet or DM to that person, and then it comes back into that, again, landing page. It's all about trying to find ways to link those two things together.
Right.
Link the properties that you're talking on or about or outside,
Yeah.
and how do I pull them back into, because this, the website, my property. And when it comes in, how do I link the two? Because obviously within the website, there's a ton of great analytics that have been created.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of good links in a lot of cases to, then CRM stuff and sales and, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So if we can link the two together, and there are ways to do that, then it will, we'll gradually be able to prove in a lot of those same streams from awareness and outreach and community back into, customer relationships and
Do you
sales.
see, as the social media tools evolve, do you see them building in those metric hooks themselves?
I think you probably will see, evolution
Right.
from that perspective. Right now, for the most part, these tools exist for consumers to use them on the sites that they're on,
Right.
but they don't necessarily tie back to a business goal,
Right.
right? So I think it'll be up to. I mean, that's something that as our company, Radian 6, we're always trying to think. What can we do to help, again, create that stream that links those things together to prove ROI for the different types of things you want to measure. So, these things will evolve. Other people come up with some other ideas, and it'll gradually fill in, much like the web analytics space. I mean, it's more mature. It's 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years older than social media.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, you just imagine social media space 5, 10 years from now. I mean, there'll be tons of things that'll be settled, and you know what I mean?
But it's almost impossible to imagine, given where we were in social media 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
You have no idea what's going to happen,
Exactly.
almost.
Yeah. But I mean, the cool thing is that social media, I don't think it's not going away. There may be more channels. There may be another Twitter or something else comes along, and there'll be more ways for people to communicate. But people have adopted. I mean, there's a whole generation of 30 and under that have completely adopted the social, ambient way of communicating as part of the things that they can choose to do. They'll text, they'll call, they'll email, they'll whatever.
Yeah.
But they've also chosen social networking as the way to communicate. I don't think that's going away. It may evolve, or other things may come along and they'll be kind of sit beside it, but it's never going away. So it's here to stay. It's a big opportunity. It's going to continue to grow. So we're going to need this stuff. We need to be able to pull it together.
Yeah, exactly.